Okay, so I'm back with another video, and this is my process video, I'm just calling it, and I'm just going to talk about the process of each one of my looks and kind of the textures that I created and manipulated, because I think that part is the most exciting to me. That's my favorite part of creating, is just like making the textiles and kind of playing with materials. So I'm just going to talk through all of it. So for the first look in my collection, called the Sunny Day Suit, I decided to do a textured cropped blazer, and this blazer was so fun to make because I got to blow through a lot of old material that I already had and make it this really rich texture that just gave it a whole new life. And I actually used just the fabric slashing technique. It's a really basic technique, but I just tried to do it in a way that felt, I don't know, new, and I kind of had a twist on it. And so I layered up different textures of materials and different colors underneath, like squishing two fabrics together, just a cotton, and I layered it in a way where there was kind of a pattern going on where I knew where the shading was, so I could just kind of bust open the areas that I wanted that texture to be, and I could kind of make these organic shapes by kind of planning out where the texture was beforehand, if that makes sense. And then I also worked with a screen printer from the fiber department to make that little pair of Speedo shorts, and we printed on both the terry cloth and also the mesh, and then I just quilted them together. Shout out to Maya, my screen printer. And for the second look, I did the desert suit. I did a hand-woven top, which was really kind of fun and a crazy learning experience because I've never really woven anything before. And so I made my own loom that was totally taped together. It was an absolute mess, but it did the job. And I ended up weaving together like torn up webbing, like strap webbing that I just had, and I just started shredding away at it to make it like a more of a fringy, like fuzzy material. I wove that together with like some craft string, that like spaghetti string is what it's called, some raffia, just a regular yarn. I was just taking anything that I had hoarded up in this apartment and just weaving it together. And the result was like this really textured, layered textile that just felt sandy and kind of had that warmth to it that I really needed out of that look. So, and it ended up working out, which was cool. So for the third look, I wanted to do a really sexy, classy gown that just felt empowering to wear. Like, I wanted the model to put it on and be like, I never want to take this off. I'd feel so, like, good in it. And the inspiration for this look was, you know, quicksand and feeling like you're melting away and, oh, woe is me, but also very pin-up from the, like, pin-up kind of inspiration that I was collaging with, that like, oh, forget about me, like that sort of vibe. And so I got really frustrated at first because I realized that I have never made anything like this before. I've never made a fitted corset. I've never done any of what is needed for a gown like that. And so I found a Valentino gown in a book in the FRC, and the construction of it was so interesting to me. I loved how there was this corset underneath within this like gown shell that zipped up the side. Well, I ended up not doing a zip or anything, but kind of interpreting that in my own way, where I had this really nice fitted corset that then had this shell on top that kind of melted away in the back, kind of going with that quicksand inspiration. And then I also found a trim that I then like kind of shredded up and added more threads to kind of give it that like deserty, like dusty kind of feel. And that was my third look. Then I had the sun-scorched dress with the melty, droopy pants. And for that look, my favorite part of designing that was probably the treatment of the sunburn. I had such a fun time like stenciling that in my apartment because I've been sunburned so many times, so I know the outlines. I'm a fair gal, so I always get burnt. I actually ended up using these heat pigments that when you put an iron on them or any kind of heat, like a hairdryer or something, the pigment goes away. So it's really fun. And then also the pants, I was really inspired by like the idea of someone standing at like a pier with a melted ice cream and that kind of shape that you get, like that billowing of a like ice cream dripping off. I just always think of this motion, so I knew I had to do like a billowed up pant that got sucked into the lining. And then next I had my puffer coat. I really played around with layering a bunch of tulle, and I just built up, like I bought a bunch of different like pinks and magentas and just started cutting all these organic shapes and just laying them down to form an ombre. And it took me a hot minute, but it was so fun to see it become like this very three-dimensional icicle, like how I wanted it to be. And I was very inspired by the pictures of like glaciers that are the blue fading to white. And I thought, oh, what if I did this out of like pink and white and that like icy, like feminine frost. Then I have Miss Wind, which is my green denim look. And that one was a challenge because it was internally and not externally, which usually my work is very textural on the surface. But for this one, it was no texture and just a lot of internal structure that you can't see. So I have in the back of the pants to keep them looking windblown, like that, like sucked to the body look, while the rest is billowed back. I had to do mesh paneling on the inside to keep it like to the body, and then I put boning in the back of the pant legs, like kind of in this shape to keep it standing. And then it went on to the jacket, which I ended up discovering and loving millinery wire for making that hat from my second look. And I thought, oh, well, if I just hide some millinery wire in the hem, that's a really lightweight, easy way to get these kind of wind-blown shapes. So then I have my raincoat and the big old umbrella. And so for this look, I actually was so stumped on how to do it and how to make something look wet, but not like the same as everyone else has done it. And so I got really frustrated one night and I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm just going to get in the shower with my muslin on. And I did, and it ended up working out for me because I saw how the ripples like went on my body when the muslin was soaked. And so I got out of the shower and I just started draping onto the dress form in that way, and realizing that if I added appliques of the shapes of the rippling from it being wet, that I could probably get that effect. And so then I started melting like plastics together and then scrunching them real quick while they were hot, and realizing, okay, like I'm getting that shape. So I was cutting up a bunch of different layers of holographic materials and also blacks and solid blues, and just looking at a picture of a puddle and finding fabrics that were those same colors that mimicked that, and then basically painting that picture but with fabric and like plastic. And for the umbrella, I actually recruited my brother. He's studying auto engineering, so he knows how to weld, how to work with metal, and so I pulled him into the garage one night when we were at home over winter break, and I said, hey, like, can you weld me a pole? And he was kind of like, what? And I just said, oh, just roll with it, it's fine, like, it can look bad, that's kind of the point, like, she's going through a storm. And then for the final look in my collection, for Miss Lightning, I decided to just capture the feeling of lightning, and I have never done like a big tulle gown before. I've never really worked with tulle in the way that you're supposed to work with tulle. I always just, use it for texture, for coloring or shading. And so while I was making the puffer coat, I was like, oh, this would be a fun material to do my lightning gown out of. And so I just started just throwing colors of tulle onto this fitted corset that can like hold everything up, and just really just going for it and making her look like she's electric. And I try to choose materials that when the flash hits, the gown illuminates so it looks like you're getting electrocuted. Fun. But she is the lightning. So I think that wraps it up of my kind of storm, my giant storm of process there. Thank you so much for watching. I had so much fun making this collection, and I hope it's evident, and I really hope you enjoyed seeing the weathering.